I saved this story for the last segment of the day because I'm just sick and tired of talking about the New York Times and publishing fake news, but once again, here we are. The Kavanaugh story isn't ending, but I'm going to start with the New York Times racist reporter because I'm really tired of talking about the Kavanaugh smear. This story from the Daily Wire. Trump Jr. blasts the New York Times after more bigoted tweets revealed. I can't show you the tweets. I can't. A reporter for the New York Times, let me see if I can scroll down just enough to see her name, because if I show you what she tweeted, if I show you what this woman tweeted, I am going to get in trouble on YouTube. So maybe it's homophobic and racial slurs, as well as animus toward other racial groups dating back several years ago, even a year or two ago. Another day, another bigot exposed at the New York Times. Are they even going to do anything to address the rampant hatred at their paper? The answer is no. I can't show you what she's saying. Her name is Gina Sheraloose. She recently issued a tweet where she said, I have deleted a series of tweets going back a decade. I'm sorry if I was offending anybody. Yup, here it comes. Recently, a guy at the New York Times was outed for anti-Semitism. And I you know what? You're probably going to see the tweets. I'm just going to go through this, okay? Because I want to talk about how the media defends this hate and then acts like they're the ones fighting against it. It is manipulation and is one of the most frustrating things ever. So here we have Robin Pogrebin. Robin Pogrebin said how Fox News twisted the Kavanaugh scandal into a way to attack the New York Times. This is one of the women who wrote the story that smeared Brett Kavanaugh recently. She's now sharing a story from Vox claiming Fox News is twisting the scandal to attack the Times. No, they omitted information on purpose. They are liars. They are cheaters. They are smear merchants. It's what they do. And here's the story. And let me explain something to you. They're claiming that Fox is twisting the Kavanaugh scandal because they said over the past 24 hours, Fox News hosts and reporters have described changes to New York Times, the changes New York Times made to Robin Pogrebin and Kate Kelly's story as a correction at least a dozen times. This supercut illustrates how the network is framing things. Let's talk about framing. What is a correction? What does correction mean? Does it mean you've fixed something? Does it mean you've applied something to something else to alter it in a way that is more likely true? Correction is relatively subjective because what they're doing is saying a correction is literally when you make a false statement and change it to a correct statement. No, there are lies by omission. And if the New York Times added an editor's note to correct the record, do you understand? Correct the record. This is what they do. So I was going to go through this big, long thing, but I just stopped and I said, I do not want to go through this anymore. The main story I want to highlight is that a New York Times reporter posted, let's just do it. Let's go through it. I'm going to get in trouble, but whatever. There's a homophobic slur. I'm going to get in trouble for showing this. This is the New York Times, okay? And I know this video will be deranked into oblivion because I just showed that. I kid you not. I can't show that on YouTube. But I think it's important, and I'm willing to take that risk to show you a New York Times fact checker using homophobic slurs. And there are other ones. It gets worse. I think that's too much. I really do. I'm sorry. I can't show you the rest. She goes through a series of slurs. This is the New York Times. And when someone calls them out, they smear Fox News and try and reframe the argument because they were called out for being trash. Don't forget, the Washington Post passed on that story smearing Kavanaugh in the first place. But let's do this. Let's move on. We'll pull up some more tweets, and I'm going to get in trouble here. John Cardillo says, stop lying, Gina. You were posting racist tweets as recently as this July. And the ones he's showing right here. It's safe. Why? Because she's ragging on white people. She said something. I am ready for her to just snitch and blame, and the blame to fall on the white women, but we know that won't happen. That was just a month or two ago. The recent tweet she said is, I have deleted offensive tweets from when I was in college nearly a decade ago. I am truly sorry. No, apparently she deleted other tweets. All right. I think we might get in trouble. Okay, we're good. Arthur Schwartz tweeting. Anyone else noticing a pattern with New York Times staff? Why? On August 22nd, Tom Wright Piersanti said, I have deleted tweets from a decade ago that are offensive. I am deeply sorry. A series of anti-Semitic tweets. Then we see this a month later. Gina, I have deleted offensive tweets from when I was in college nearly a decade ago. I am truly sorry. The same thing. Almost basically the same tweets. The only problem is that's not true. She was tweeting offensive things not even that long ago. I can't go through everything. I really can't. And it's frustrating. Here's the story from the Wrap. New York Times senior editor Tom Wright Piersanti apologizes and deletes past offensive tweets. The New York Times staff are overtly racist, bigoted, and they're being caught. The response from the New York Times was to slam and smear Trump supporters for digging this up. The cancel culture rules weren't created by Trump supporters. It was created by woke outrage. They point out things you've done a long time ago and they get you in trouble for it. One of the best points brought up recently, at least in my opinion, is that Beto O'Rourke has a criminal history. Apparently there was like a DUI hit and run or something to that effect. That was not even that long ago, relative to what we're seeing about Kavanaugh. The worst claims about Kavanaugh are that he may have, exposed himself at a party and someone pushed him into a woman. Or that 30 years ago he pushed a woman down in the bed and groped her and then she ran away. Those have no evidence, no corroboration, no records. There's been no proof. No one can prove any of it. Many of the stories were recanted. But to them on the left, it's a fact. And this is the problem. When I call this out, they say, why won't you talk about the Republicans? Okay, show me Mitch McConnell falsely accusing somebody of assault. I don't see it. Instead, Beto O'Rourke's crimes, which are documented, free pass. Nobody cares. Brett Kavanaugh's alleged crimes, of which in several instances there's no victims, and there's been several stories recanted, good enough. Good enough. The New York Times then tries to pass the buck. They published fake news. Listen, there's more than one way to publish fake news, okay? If you publish something and omit a key detail, the victim doesn't remember it and won't go on the record, and their friends say that she has no recollection of it happening. You'd think that'd be enough. Leland Kaiser, a friend of Christine Blasey Ford, you think that'd be enough? No. I believe the New York Times does all of this on purpose. They have racist reporters, they have racist articles, and they try and blame conservatives for calling them out. What's really frustrating about this video, I'm going to say it, is that I can't show you. Isn't that screwed up? This is the problem we face here on YouTube as independent political commentators. Big story. Trump Jr. blasts New York Times after more bigoted tweets are revealed. I've shown one, and I'm probably already going to get in trouble for it. I'll have to blur it. I'm going to have to blur it. I'm not exaggerating. The slur, I can't say it, will get me a channel strike just for showing it. I am. You know what? I'm not going to blur it. No, screw it. If I get a strike, I get a strike. The New York Times said it. If the New York Times can say it, I should be able to criticize them for it. But YouTube is propping up big corporate channels and deranking channels like mine. You hear me say it all the time. And this is the problem. The New York Times hired Sarah Jeong, an avowed and overt racist. Avowed and overt. They've hired numerous people with histories where they've tweeted racist and homophobic things. And they're now people finding out about it now. Where was the vetting process? This is a fact checker. Only now do they care. Listen, I don't care that people made offensive comments in the past, but I do care that the New York Times is continually embracing these racists. The New York Times is not Twitter. It's not Facebook. It is a private company that is choosing to platform these people. The argument, from the left is that Twitter, YouTube, Facebook are private companies. Yes, but they're monopolies. You don't need, the New York Times doesn't have to hire you if you want to say these things. The New York Times is choosing to have these people on board. Now, if these people delete their tweets and apologize, fine, I get it. I think cancel culture is bad and let people move on. These are the rules they made. The New York Times has done the same thing, calling out people writing stories about past tweets, even recently. Mainstream media does this all the time. Now that it's being wielded against them, they're freaking out. Well, if you want to write fake news to smear Brett Kavanaugh, and then you get called out for it, you can't turn around and then blame conservatives for calling out your lies. And that's what they're doing. This is the reporter for the New York Times tweeting out Vox, defending their fake news. Defend the bigots. Defend the racism and the homophobic slurs. Do it. How can you defend the fake news you write that has to be corrected, then publish a defense from another left-wing organization saying it's not really a correction. It was just a note. I can't. I struggle with this video. I got to be honest. I really wanted to do something breaking down the things that they were saying and showing you what Gina Sherrilou said. And I've shown you that one thing and it's already going to get me in trouble. Because YouTube is a protected place where we can't call out the powers that be. So think about that structure. The New York Times can employ these people. They can write fake news. They can change the news cycle. And when I try and call them out for doing it, YouTube would take me down. That's the power they hold. That's true privilege. That's the New York Times getting away with making everything worse. But I'll end with one more point at least. The book by Molly Hemingway, Justice on Trial, which calls out the fake news, is doing remarkably better than The Education of Brett Kavanaugh, the New York Times fake news nonsense. So, whatever, man. I apologize if this video is kind of all over the place, but I'm trying to highlight these things the New York Times does, and I know that if I show it, I'll get in trouble. So I'm just like, I'm stuck. I'm stuck. Just, there it is. Next segment will be tomorrow at 10 a.m. Podcast at 6:30. I'll see you then.